Ancient Egypt perhaps holds the greatest mysteries the world has ever known. Some of these mysteries have explanations, but I can't say the same for the ones in this video. Let's take a step into this unique journey. Secrets of the Black Pyramid. Tucked away in the sands of Dashur, about 25 miles south of Giza, stands a monument that doesn't get the fame of its larger cousins but holds just as much mystery: the Black Pyramid. Built around 1894 to 1839 BCE during Egypt's Middle Kingdom, this enigmatic structure was commissioned by Pharaoh Amenemhat III of the 12th dynasty. Its crumbling, dark appearance, caused by the erosion of its once smooth limestone casing, gives it an eerie, almost forgotten presence. Unlike the polished grandeur of the Great Pyramid, the Black Pyramid looks like a relic from a lost age, its secrets buried in its flawed construction and the questions it raises. Why did it fail? What lies within its collapsed chambers? And what does it tell us about the ambitions and struggles of a pharaoh at the peak of Egypt's power? The secrets of the Black Pyramid reveal a story of engineering, ambition, and the fragility of even the mightiest plans. The Black Pyramid, also known as the Bent Pyramid's lesser-known sibling, sits in Dashur's royal necropolis, a site already famous for the Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid, built by Amenemhat III's ancestor, Sneferu. Dashur was a proving ground for pyramid evolution, where Egypt's architects refined their craft between the Old and Middle Kingdoms. Amenemhat III, ruling around 1860 to 1814 BCE, was a powerhouse pharaoh, credited with strengthening Egypt's economy, expanding trade, and fortifying borders. His reign marked the Middle Kingdom's golden age, a time of stability and wealth. Yet his pyramid, meant to be a lasting monument to his glory, is a paradox, a structure built with ambition but doomed by its own design. What makes the Black Pyramid unique is its construction and its failure. Unlike the Giza pyramids, which used massive limestone blocks, Amenemhat III's pyramid relied heavily on mud brick, a cheaper and more common material in the Middle Kingdom. The core was made of mud brick, with a casing of fine Tura limestone to give it that classic, gleaming pyramid look. But the choice of mud brick, combined with a critical design flaw, led to disaster. The pyramid was built on unstable ground, possibly a clay-heavy area near the Nile that couldn't support its weight. As construction progressed, the structure began to sink and crack, forcing builders to shore up its base with additional supports. By the time it was finished, the pyramid was already deteriorating, and its limestone casing was later stripped away, leaving the dark, crumbling mud brick core that gives it its name today. The Black Pyramid's interior is another layer of mystery. Unlike many pyramids, it wasn't just a tomb for the pharaoh, but a complex with multiple chambers and passages, some of which remain inaccessible. Archaeologists have explored parts of the pyramid, finding a labyrinthine network of tunnels, a burial chamber, and a smaller chamber likely for a queen or princess. But the structure's instability has limited excavations. Collapsing corridors and shifting stones make it dangerous to probe too deeply. Inside the main burial chamber, a granite sarcophagus was found, but it was empty, raising questions about whether Amenemhat III was ever buried here. Some suggest he abandoned the pyramid for a second tomb at Hawara, another site associated with his reign, where a more intact pyramid complex survives. Why would a pharaoh of Amenemhat III's stature build a flawed monument? The answer lies in the Middle Kingdom's challenges. While Egypt was wealthy, resources were stretched thin by ambitious projects like canals, temples, and fortifications. Mud brick was a practical choice, faster and cheaper than quarrying millions of stone blocks, but it couldn't match the durability of Giza's limestone giants. The unstable ground at Dashur was a miscalculation, possibly due to rushed planning or overconfidence after the success of earlier pyramids. Some scholars speculate the builders noticed the cracks early and adapted, adding cedar beams and limestone supports to stabilize the structure. These efforts kept the pyramid standing, but it was never the eternal monument Amenemhat envisioned. The Black Pyramid's secrets extend beyond its construction. Its design included a unique feature: a causeway connecting it to a valley temple, part of a larger funerary complex. This temple, now mostly ruined, was richly decorated with reliefs depicting offerings and rituals, hinting at the pyramid's role as a center for the pharaoh's cult. Priests would have performed daily rites here to ensure Amenemhat's soul thrived in the afterlife, a practice central to Egyptian religion. But the temple's poor preservation and the pyramid's collapse suggest it was abandoned soon after Amenemhat's death, possibly as his successors focused on other sites like Hawara. What rituals took place here, and what treasures might still lie buried in the rubble? Another mystery is the pyramid's empty sarcophagus. If Amenemhat III wasn't buried here, where did he go? His second pyramid at Hawara, known as the Labyrinth Pyramid for its complex maze of chambers, contains another sarcophagus, also empty. Tomb robbers, rampant in ancient Egypt, could have looted both, but the Black Pyramid's inaccessibility suggests otherwise. Some theories propose Amenemhat was buried in a secret chamber, still undiscovered due to the pyramid's instability. Others argue he was never meant to rest here and the Black Pyramid was a symbolic or decoy tomb, a common practice to confuse robbers. The Hawara Pyramid, with its intricate traps, supports this idea, but no definitive evidence confirms his burial site. Modern archaeology has struggled to unlock the Black Pyramid's secrets. Excavations in the 20th century, led by figures like Ahmed Fakhri, uncovered the burial chamber and parts of the causeway, but the pyramid's condition limits further exploration. Ground-penetrating radar and drones have mapped the site, revealing anomalies that could be hidden chambers or collapsed tunnels, but digging risks further damage. In 2019, Egyptian archaeologists found nearby burials of nobles, suggesting Dashur remained a significant necropolis, but the Black Pyramid itself remains largely unprobed. Chemical analysis of the mud brick shows it was locally sourced, mixed with straw for strength, but why the builders chose such a risky site remains unclear. The Black Pyramid also sparks broader questions about the Middle Kingdom. Amenemhat III's reign was a high point, but his pyramid's failure hints at underlying pressures: economic strain, environmental challenges, or overambition. The Nile's floods, vital for agriculture, were less predictable during this period, possibly affecting construction budgets. The shift to mud brick reflects a pragmatic approach, but it also shows the limits of Egypt's resources compared to the Old Kingdom's stone-building extravagance. The Black Pyramid, then, is a snapshot of a civilization balancing grandeur with practicality, its flaws a mirror of human ambition. Fringe theories add spice to the mystery. Some claim the Black Pyramid hides esoteric knowledge, like astronomical alignments or connections to lost technologies. Its proximity to the Bent Pyramid, with its odd angles, fuels speculation about experimental designs or sacred geometry. Mainstream scholars dismiss these, pointing to practical explanations, engineering errors, not alien blueprints. Yet the pyramid's eerie appearance and empty chambers keep such ideas alive, especially among those who see Dashur as a place of ancient secrets. Why does the Black Pyramid matter? It's more than a failed monument. It tells the story of a pharaoh who aimed for eternity but was humbled by nature and time. Its crumbling form challenges the myth of Egypt's invincibility, showing even great rulers faced setbacks. If hidden chambers exist, they could hold papyri, artifacts, or even Amenemhat's lost mummy, shedding light on the Middle Kingdom's politics, religion, and daily life. For now, the Black Pyramid stands as a dark enigma, its secrets locked in collapsing stone, daring us to uncover what lies within its shadowed heart. 4,000 years ago, in the heart of ancient Egypt, there stood a city that pulsed with power, ambition, and mystery. Its name was Itjtawy, a capital so vital it was called the Caesar of the Two Lands, uniting Upper and Lower Egypt under the iron grip of the pharaohs. During Egypt's Middle Kingdom, roughly 2000 BCE, Itjtawy was the epicenter of a resurgent empire, a place where kings were crowned, trade flourished, and history was written. Yet today, this once mighty city is a ghost, its location shrouded in uncertainty, its ruins lost to time. No towering monuments mark its place. No clear records pinpoint its streets. Itjtawy is one of the greatest enigmas of ancient Egypt, a lost capital that continues to elude archaeologists and tantalize historians. So what was this city? Why was it so important? And where did it go? To understand Itjtawy, we need to step back to a turbulent time in Egypt's history. Around 2060 BCE, the Old Kingdom had crumbled, plunging the land into a century of chaos known as the First Intermediate Period. Rival warlords fought for control, famine gripped the Nile Valley, and Egypt's unity fractured. Out of this darkness rose a man named Amenemhat I, a vizier turned pharaoh who founded the 12th dynasty and ushered in the Middle Kingdom, a golden age of stability and prosperity. Amenemhat was a master strategist, a leader who knew that to rule Egypt, he needed a new power base. Thebes, the southern capital, was too far from the north to control the entire land effectively. Memphis, the ancient northern hub, had lost its luster, so Amenemhat did something bold. He built a new capital, Itjtawy, a city designed to dominate both Upper and Lower Egypt. The name Itjtawy wasn't just a fancy title. It reflected the city's purpose, to bind Egypt's two halves into one unstoppable force. Scholars believe Itjtawy was founded around 1991 BCE, likely near the modern village of Lisht, about 30 miles south of Cairo. This spot was perfect, sitting along the Nile's eastern bank where the river's fertile valley met the desert's edge. It was close enough to the delta to manage northern trade routes, but central enough to oversee the south. Amenemhat's vision was clear. Itjtawy would be a fortress of power, a hub of commerce, and a beacon of culture. Under his rule, the city grew into a sprawling metropolis, home to grand palaces, intricate temples, and advanced irrigation systems that turned barren land into fields of gold. What made Itjtawy special wasn't just its location, but its role in Egypt's rebirth. The Middle Kingdom was a time of renewal. After years of division, Egypt was knitting itself back together, and Itjtawy was the thread. Amenemhat I and his successors, like his son Sesostris I, used the city as a launchpad for ambitious projects. They fortified borders, expanded trade with neighbors like Nubia and the Levant, and commissioned art and architecture that rivaled the Old Kingdom's glory. Itjtawy's markets buzzed with merchants trading gold, papyrus, and spices. Its scribes recorded laws and chronicles on papyrus scrolls, preserving the city's legacy. Its priests conducted rituals to honor the gods, ensuring divine favor for the pharaohs. This was a city alive with purpose, a place where Egypt's past and future met. But for all its grandeur, Itjtawy's story is incomplete because we don't know what it looked like. Unlike Thebes with its colossal temples of Karnak or Memphis with its iconic pyramids, Itjtawy left no unmistakable footprint. Ancient texts mention it frequently. Papyrus records describe royal decrees issued from Itjtawy, and inscriptions praise its role as the seat of the 12th dynasty. Yet these sources are frustratingly vague about its layout or exact location. We know it was near Lisht because Amenemhat the Sesostris built their pyramids there, monumental tombs that still stand today, weathered by millennia of wind and sand. These pyramids, along with nearby temples and elite cemeteries, suggest Itjtawy was close, perhaps just a few miles away. But the city itself, it's nowhere to be found. This brings us to the heart of the mystery. Why is Itjtawy lost? Cities don't just vanish, especially not ones as important as this. Archaeologists have been hunting for Itjtawy for over a century, focusing on the Lisht area where the royal pyramids stand. They've uncovered fragments, temple foundations, broken statues, pottery shards, but nothing that screams, "This is Itjtawy." The problem is, urban centers in ancient Egypt were often built with mud brick, not stone, and mud brick doesn't survive well over thousands of years. Add to that the Nile's unpredictable nature, and you've got a recipe for a lost city. The river's course has shifted over time, possibly flooding Itjtawy's remains or burying them under layers of silt. Some scholars think the city's stones and bricks were quarried away by later generations, recycled into new buildings as Egypt's priorities changed. Another theory points to environmental factors. The Middle Kingdom relied on the Nile's annual floods to sustain its agriculture, but changes in climate or river patterns could have disrupted Itjtawy's lifeline. If the city's fields dried up, or its canals failed, it might have been abandoned, left to crumble as its people moved elsewhere. There's also the possibility of political upheaval. After the 12th dynasty, Egypt slipped into another period of instability, the Second Intermediate Period, when foreign invaders, the Hyksos, seized the north. Itjtawy may have been neglected or destroyed during this time, its memory fading as new capitals like Avaris and Thebes took center stage. Despite these challenges, the search for Itjtawy hasn't stopped. Modern archaeologists use satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and drones to scour the Lisht region, hoping to uncover the city's remains. Every dig now yields tantalizing clues. A few years ago, excavators found a workers' settlement near Lisht, complete with tools and tool sheds, suggesting a major construction hub that could have supported Itjtawy's growth. Other finds, like inscribed seals and pottery, confirm the area's importance during the 12th dynasty. But the big prize, the city's core, with its palaces and temples, remains elusive. Each discovery raises more questions than answers, keeping Itjtawy's secret just out of reach. Why does this lost city still matter? Itjtawy isn't just a dot on a map. It's a key to understanding one of Egypt's most transformative eras. The Middle Kingdom was when Egypt redefined itself, moving from chaos to order, from weakness to strength. Itjtawy was the crucible where this transformation happened. Finding it could reveal how pharaohs governed, how trade networks operated, how ordinary Egyptians lived their lives. Imagine uncovering a temple dedicated to Amun-Ra, or a marketplace where merchants haggled over goods from distant lands. These discoveries would bring the Middle Kingdom into sharp focus, filling gaps in our knowledge about one of ancient history's greatest civilizations. Itjtawy's mystery also speaks to something deeper, a reminder of how fragile our grasp on the past can be. Even a city that once held the fate of an empire in its hands can slip through time's fingers, leaving only fragments and guesses. Yet that fragility is what drives the hunt. Every archaeologist who digs at Lisht, every historian who pores over ancient texts, is chasing a dream, to stand where Amenemhat II stood, to walk the streets of a city that shaped an ancient world. Until that day comes, Itjtawy remains a shadow, a lost capital whose story is both a challenge and an invitation to uncover the secrets buried beneath Egypt's sands of time. Death in ancient Egypt wasn't the end. It was a gateway to eternity. For thousands of years, the Egyptians perfected a practice that has become one of their most enduring legacies: mummification. This intricate process, designed to preserve the body for the afterlife, is synonymous with Egypt's pyramids, pharaohs, and gods. But where did it come from? Why did a civilization become so obsessed with preserving flesh long after the soul had departed? The origins of Egyptian mummification stretch back to the dawn of their culture, rooted in a blend of environment, religion, and human ingenuity. From accidental discoveries in the desert to the elaborate rituals of the New Kingdom, the story of mummification reveals a people who saw death not as a finale, but as a journey that demanded preparation. To understand mummification's origins, we need to go back to Egypt's prehistory, long before the pyramids rose on the Giza plateau. Around 4000 BCE, in the pre-dynastic period, Egypt was a patchwork of villages along the Nile, a river that gave life to an otherwise unforgiving desert. Burial practices were simple. The dead were placed in shallow pits in the sand, often wrapped in reed mats or animal skins. But the desert's dry, hot climate worked a kind of magic. Bodies buried in this arid environment, far from the Nile's moisture, were naturally desiccated by the sand, which absorbed bodily fluids and prevented decay. These early mummies weren't intentional. They were accidents of nature. Yet they likely shaped the Egyptians' beliefs about the afterlife, showing that a body could endure beyond death, perhaps hinting at a soul's eternal journey. By the early dynastic period, around 3100 BCE, when Egypt's first pharaohs unified the land, burial practices began to evolve. The elite, seeking grander tombs, moved away from simple pit graves to mud brick mastabas, rectangular structures that marked their status. This shift had an unintended consequence. Bodies buried in these tombs, shielded from the desert's drying sands, began to rot. The Egyptians noticed this and started experimenting with ways to mimic the desert's natural preservation. Early attempts were crude. Bodies were wrapped in linen soaked with resin or coated with natron, a naturally occurring salt mixture found in dry lake beds like Wadi Natron. These experiments laid the groundwork for what would become a cornerstone of Egyptian culture. The Old Kingdom, around 2686 to 2181 BCE, saw mummification take shape as a deliberate practice. This was the era of the pyramids, when pharaohs like Djoser and Khufu built monumental tombs to secure their place in the afterlife. The Egyptians believed the soul, or Ka, needed a physical body to inhabit after death. A preserved body was essential for the soul to navigate the underworld, face judgment by Osiris, and achieve eternal life. Early mummification focused on wrapping the body tightly in linen bandages, sometimes with plaster to create a rigid shell. Organs, prone to decay, were often left in place, but embalmers began using natron to dry the body, applying it as a powder or soaking the corpse in a natron solution. Tombs from this period, like those at Saqqara, contain mummies with recognizable features, though the techniques were still basic compared to later eras. By the Middle Kingdom, around 2055 to 1650 BCE, mummification became more sophisticated. Embalmers started removing internal organs to prevent decomposition, a major leap forward. The heart, believed to house the soul, was often left in place, while the brain, considered unimportant, was extracted through the nose using a hooked tool. The other organs, lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines, were preserved separately in canopic jars, each protected by a deity known as one of the four sons of Horus. Natron was now used systematically, packed around and inside the body for up to 40 days to draw out moisture. Resins, oils, and beeswax were applied to seal the skin, and linen bandages, sometimes hundreds of yards long, were wrapped in intricate patterns. These mummies, found in tombs at sites like Dashur, show a growing mastery of the craft, reflecting Egypt's increasing wealth and religious focus. The New Kingdom, from 1550 to 1070 BCE, marked the peak of mummification's art and science. This was the age of Tutankhamun, Ramses II, and Hatshepsut, when Egypt's empire stretched from Nubia to the Levant. Mummification became a highly ritualized process, performed by specialized priests in workshops called Pernefer, or House of Beauty. The process took 70 days divided into stages: removal of organs, drying with natron, anointing with sacred oils, and wrapping with amulets placed between layers of linen for protection. The body was stuffed with sawdust or linen to restore its shape, and eyes were sometimes replaced with onions or stones to mimic a lifelike appearance. Tombs in the Valley of the Kings reveal mummies with detailed wrapping, some adorned with gold masks, like Tutankhamun's, to ensure divine status in the afterlife.
But mummification wasn't just for pharaohs.
By the New Kingdom, nobles, priests, and even wealthy commoners could afford it, though the quality varied. Elite mummies were masterpieces, while simpler ones used less natron or skipped organ removal. The practice also extended to animals. Cats, ibises, crocodiles, and apis bulls were mummified as offerings to gods. This reflected Egypt's belief that all life was sacred and tied to the divine order, or Ma'at. Mummification's spread shows how deeply the afterlife permeated Egyptian society, from the palace to the village. Why did mummification become so central? Religion was the driving force. The Egyptians saw life as a cycle, with death as a transition to a new existence. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells from the New Kingdom, guided the soul through dangers in the underworld, emphasizing the body's role as a vessel. The desert's natural preservation likely inspired the idea that a body could last forever, reinforcing myths of Osiris, the god who was resurrected after death. Social factors played a part too. Mummification was a status symbol, a way to display wealth and piety. The process was expensive, requiring skilled labor and rare materials like frankincense and myrrh, imported from distant lands. The origins of mummification also highlight Egypt's practical genius. Natron, the key to preservation, was abundant but required careful application. Embalmers learned through trial and error, refining techniques over centuries. By the late period, around 664–332 BCE, mummification was so advanced that some mummies, like those found at Saqqara, retain skin and hair even today. Greek and Roman observers like Herodotus in the 5th century BCE marveled at the process, though their accounts exaggerated details like claiming embalmers worked in teams of cutters and scrapers. Modern science, using CT scans and chemical analysis, confirms the Egyptian skill. Mummies reveal evidence of diseases, diets, and even surgical techniques, offering a window into ancient life.
Yet mysteries remain.
Why did some early mummies fail, decaying despite efforts? Were there secret rituals or ingredients lost to time? Some scholars suggest mummification's origins predate Egypt, pointing to similar practices in South America's Chinchorro culture, though these likely developed independently. In Egypt, the practice declined under Greek and Roman rule, as Christianity and other beliefs replaced traditional afterlife concepts. By 400 CE, mummification was rare, leaving behind thousands of preserved bodies that continue to captivate us. The origins of mummification reveal a civilization obsessed with conquering death. From desert burials to golden masks, the Egyptians turned preservation into an art form, driven by faith, status, and ingenuity. Each mummy is a time capsule, holding stories of people who believed they could defy decay and live forever. As we study them, We're not just uncovering bodies, but the soul of a culture that saw eternity in every grain of sand. Secrets beneath the Great Sphinx. Crouched on the Giza plateau, gazing eastward with an enigmatic stare, the Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most iconic monuments in human history. Carved from a single block of limestone around 2558 to 2532 BCE during Egypt's Old Kingdom, this colossal creature, half lion, half human, guards the pyramids of Khufu and Khafra. Measuring 240 feet long and 66 feet high, it's the largest monolithic statue in the world, a symbol of ancient Egypt's power and mystery. But for all its grandeur, the Sphinx hides secrets that have puzzled scholars, explorers, and dreamers for centuries. What lies beneath it? Are there hidden chambers or tunnels holding treasures, records, or clues to Egypt's past? The secrets beneath the Great Sphinx fuel speculation, from ancient texts to modern science, making it a riddle carved in stone. The Sphinx's origins are tied to the 4th dynasty, likely built under Pharaoh Khafra, whose pyramid sits nearby. Its lion body represents strength, while its human head, possibly Khafra's likeness, symbolizes divine wisdom. In ancient Egyptian belief, the Sphinx was a guardian, protecting sacred spaces from evil forces. Its alignment with the rising sun suggests a connection to solar worship, perhaps linked to the god Horus or Ra. But beyond its purpose, the Sphinx's physical presence raises questions. Erosion patterns suggest it may predate Khafra, and strange cavities beneath its base hint at unexplored spaces. These anomalies have sparked theories about what lies hidden, from lost libraries to sacred relics. One of the earliest clues to the Sphinx's secrets comes from ancient texts. The Dream Stele, a granite slab erected between the Sphinx's paws by Pharaoh Thutmose IV around 1400 BCE, tells a curious story. As a prince, Thutmose napped in the Sphinx's shadow and dreamed the monument spoke, promising him the throne if he cleared sand engulfing it. Thutmose obeyed, became pharaoh, and left the stele as proof. The tale suggests the Sphinx was already ancient by Thutmose's time, buried by desert sands. But the stele also hints at something more. Passages mention repairs and possibly underground access points, fueling speculation about chambers beneath the monument. Archaeological evidence supports the idea of hidden spaces. In the 1980s, Japanese researchers using ground-penetrating radar detected cavities under the Sphinx's paws and body, some as large as rooms. American geophysicist Thomas Dobecki confirmed these findings, identifying anomalies that could be man-made tunnels or natural voids. Egyptian authorities, cautious about damaging the Sphinx, have limited invasive exploration, but small-scale digs in the 19th and 20th centuries revealed intriguing clues. In 1817, Italian adventurer Giovanni Caviglia uncovered a tunnel beneath the Sphinx's chest, though it led nowhere conclusive. Later, in 1937, French archaeologist Émile Barrais found another passage, sealed with limestone blocks, suggesting deliberate concealment. These discoveries keep the question alive. What's down there? Theories about the Sphinx's secrets range from grounded to fantastical. Mainstream Egyptologists believe any chambers would hold practical items, tools, offerings, or construction records, similar to those found near the pyramids. The Sphinx sits on a quarry bed, and tunnels may have been used to extract stone or access groundwater, but others dream bigger. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, described vast underground networks in Egypt, though he never saw them. Edgar Cayce, a 20th century mystic, claimed the Sphinx hides a hall of records, a library of lost knowledge from a pre-Egyptian civilization like Atlantis. While Cayce's ideas lack evidence, they've inspired fringe researchers to link the Sphinx to mythical origins, citing its erosion as proof it predates the Old Kingdom. The erosion debate is a key part of the mystery. Geologist Robert Schoch argues the Sphinx's deep, vertical weathering patterns suggest exposure to heavy rainfall, which Egypt hasn't seen since 7000 to 5000 BCE, long before Khafre's reign. If true, the Sphinx could be thousands of years older, possibly built by a lost culture and later repurposed. Mainstream scholars counter that the erosion comes from wind, sand, or poor-quality limestone, keeping the Sphinx firmly in the 4th dynasty. Still, the debate fuels speculation that chambers beneath could hold artifacts from an earlier era, rewriting Egypt's timeline. Modern technology has intensified the search. In the 1990s, Florida State University teams used seismic surveys to map voids under the Sphinx, finding rectangular anomalies that could be chambers. In 2018, Egyptian archaeologists employed muon tomography, a technique using cosmic rays to detect hidden spaces, though results were inconclusive. These efforts face challenges. Digging risks destabilizing the Sphinx, and Egypt's government prioritizes preservation over exploration. Yet each scan,
What might lie beneath?
practical theories point to storage rooms or ritual spaces. The Sphinx was part of Khafre's pyramid complex, and underground chambers could hold offerings to gods or tools for priests. Some speculate a royal tomb, perhaps Khafre's original burial before his pyramid was built. Wilder theories imagine papyri detailing Egypt's origins or even astronomical records, given the Sphinx's alignment with the constellation Leo around 10,500 BCE, a date favored by alternative historians. While mainstream archaeology dismisses these, the lack of access to the cavities keeps the door open to speculation. The Sphinx's history adds layers to the mystery. Over millennia, it was buried by sand, rediscovered and restored multiple times. By the New Kingdom, it was a pilgrimage site, revered as a deity called Hora Makhet, Horus of the horizon. Roman emperors repaired it, and Islamic rulers left their mark. Each era obscured or altered its original form, making it hard to separate fact from myth. Looting and vandalism, common in ancient Egypt, may have emptied any chambers long ago, but sealed tunnels suggest some secrets remain untouched. The search for answers reflects our fascination with the Sphinx. It's not just a statue, but a symbol of humanity's quest for knowledge. Finding chambers beneath could reveal new details about the Old Kingdom, how the Sphinx was built, who it honored, and why. If Schoch's dating holds, it could challenge everything we know about early civilizations. Even if the cavities are empty, their existence would deepen our understanding of Egyptian engineering. The Sphinx's silence after 4,500 years is its greatest power, daring us to uncover what lies below. The secrets beneath the Great Sphinx matter because they touch on Egypt's core mysteries: who built its wonders and why. Each anomaly, each ancient text, pulls us closer to the truth. The Sphinx, with its weathered gaze, guards its secrets well, but science and curiosity are closing in. One day we may walk beneath its paws into chambers that have waited millennia to be seen. Until then, the Sphinx remains a riddle in stone, its hidden depths a challenge to unlock the past. Who built the Giza pyramids? The Giza Plateau, just outside modern Cairo, is home to three of the most iconic structures in human history: the pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. Built around 2600 to 2005 BCE during Egypt's Old Kingdom, these massive stone monuments have stood for over 4,500 years, defying time, sand, and countless theories about their creation. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of the three, was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and the only one still standing. But who built these colossal structures? Were they the work of slaves toiling under the whip as Hollywood often depicts? Or was there something more complex, more human, behind their construction. The story of the Giza Pyramid's builders is as fascinating as the monuments themselves, revealing a society of skill, organization, and devotion.
Let's start with the basics.
The Giza pyramids were constructed during the 4th dynasty, a high point of Egypt's Old Kingdom, when pharaohs were seen as living gods, their power absolute. Khufu, the second king of this dynasty, commissioned the Great Pyramid around 2580 BCE. His son Khafre built the second pyramid along with the Great Sphinx, and Khafre's son Menkaure built the smallest of the trio. Each pyramid was a tomb, designed to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage to the afterlife and to cement his legacy on Earth. The Great Pyramid alone required over 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, cut with precision and hauled into place without modern machinery. The scale is staggering. Khufu's pyramid stood 481 feet tall, the tallest man-made structure for nearly 4,000 years. Building these wasn't just a construction project. It was a feat of engineering, logistics, and sheer will. For centuries, popular imagination leaned on the idea that the pyramids were built by vast armies of slaves, driven by fear and force. This image comes partly from ancient sources like the Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt 2,000 years after the pyramids were built and wrote about 100,000 workers laboring under brutal conditions. Hollywood ran with this, painting scenes of chained workers dragging stones under the scorching sun. But archaeology tells a different story. Over the past few decades, excavations around Giza have uncovered evidence that challenges the slave narrative and paints a picture of a highly organized, skilled workforce, people who took pride in their work and were likely well treated for their efforts. One of the biggest clues lies in the workers' village near the Giza Plateau, discovered in the 1990s. This sprawling settlement housed thousands of laborers, complete with barracks, bakeries, and breweries. The remains of bread ovens and fish bones suggest these workers ate well, protein-rich diets of fish, beef, and bread, not the scraps you'd expect for slaves. Cattle bones in particular point to a level of care, as beef was a luxury in ancient Egypt. These workers were consuming calories to fuel intense physical labor, an estimated 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. Nearby cemeteries reveal more. The tombs of workers, some with simple inscriptions, show they were buried with respect, not dumped in mass graves. These weren't the burials of slaves, but of valued members of society.
So, who were these people? Most scholars now believe the pyramid builders were a mix of skilled craftsmen and seasonal laborers.
The core workforce included architects, engineers, and stonemasons, experts who lived at Giza year-round, overseeing the project's technical demands. Cutting and placing stones with near-perfect precision required advanced knowledge of geometry and engineering. Tools like copper chisels, wooden levers, and sledges were used to quarry and move stones, often lubricated with wet clay to reduce friction. These skilled workers were likely well paid, possibly in grain, beer, or other goods, and their expertise was passed down through generations. The bulk of the labor force, however, was likely made up of farmers recruited during the Nile's annual flood season, when fields were underwater and agricultural work paused. These seasonal workers, possibly numbering in the tens of thousands, came from villages across Egypt. Far from being slaves, they were likely fulfilling a form of national service, a duty to the pharaoh seen as both a practical obligation and a spiritual honor. Building a pyramid wasn't just about constructing a tomb. It was about ensuring the pharaoh's divine journey to the afterlife, which, in Egyptian belief, protected the entire land. Workers saw their labor as a contribution to Egypt's cosmic order, a way to serve the gods and their king. How many workers did it take? Estimates vary, but recent studies suggest a workforce of 20,000 to 40,000, far fewer than Herodotus's 100,000. This includes not just laborers but support staff, cooks, brewers, tool makers, and medics. Excavations have uncovered medical evidence, like bones showing healed fractures, suggesting workers received care for injuries. The logistics were mind-boggling. Quarries at Giza and Tura supplied limestone, while granite for inner chambers came from Aswan, over 500 miles away, likely floated down the Nile on barges. Ramps, possibly straight or zigzagging, were used to haul stones up the pyramid's growing structure, a system that required constant innovation as the pyramid rose.
But what about the wilder theories?
Some claim the pyramids were built by aliens or lost civilizations with advanced technology. These ideas stem from the sheer scale of the pyramids and their precise alignment with celestial bodies, like the Great Pyramid's alignment with true north. But archaeology debunks these. The Egyptians' tools and techniques, while simple, were effective. They used stars for navigation, not spaceships. The alien theory often underestimates the ingenuity of ancient people who built Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and other wonders without modern tech. The Giza pyramids are a testament to human skill, not extraterrestrial intervention. The builder's story also reveals Egypt's societal strength. The pyramids weren't built by one man's whim, but by a civilization at its peak, with the resources to mobilize thousands, feed them, and coordinate their efforts over decades. Khufu's pyramid took an estimated 10-20 years to build, a project spanning generations. Workers' graffiti found inside the pyramids shows their pride. Teams with names like Friends of Khufu left their marks on hidden stones. These signatures humanize the builders, showing they weren't faceless drones but people with camaraderie and purpose. The question of who built the Giza pyramids isn't just about labor, it's about legacy. The workers, whether skilled artisans or seasonal farmers, were ordinary Egyptians who achieved something extraordinary. Their efforts turned stone into symbols of eternity, monuments that still inspire awe. We may never know their names, but their work endures, a reminder of what humans can accomplish when united by a shared goal. The Giza pyramids stand not just as tombs for pharaohs, but as tributes to the people who built them, a civilization that reached for the stars while grounded in the sands of the Nile.
Mystery of the Saqqara sarcophagi. Deep beneath the sands of Saqqara, just south of Egypt's Giza plateau, lies a subterranean labyrinth that holds one of the ancient world's most perplexing mysteries, the Saqqara sarcophagi. These massive stone coffins, some weighing as much as 100 tons, are housed in a complex of underground tunnels known as the Serapeum. Dating from Egypt's New Kingdom through the Ptolemaic period, roughly 1550 to 300 BCE, these sarcophagi are feats of engineering that defy easy explanation. Carved with precision from single blocks of granite or limestone, polished to a mirror-like sheen, and placed in chambers hewn from solid rock, they stand as testaments to ancient Egyptian skill. But their purpose remains shrouded in enigma. Were they truly built to house the sacred Apis bulls, as tradition claims? Or do they hide a deeper, perhaps stranger, secret? The mystery of the Saqqara sarcophagi challenges everything we think we know about ancient Egypt's beliefs, technology, and ambitions. The story begins with the Serapeum itself, a sprawling underground network discovered in 1851 by French archaeologist Auguste Mariette. Saqqara, already famous for its step pyramid of Djoser, was a sacred necropolis for millennia, a place where pharaohs, nobles, and even gods were laid to rest. The Serapeum, however, stood apart. Its tunnels, stretching over 100 meters, were lined with massive niches, each containing a single sarcophagus. These weren't ordinary coffins. Crafted from granite quarried in Aswan, over 500 miles away, or limestone from Tura, they were monumental in scale and craftsmanship. Some measured 13 feet long, 8 feet high, and 7 feet wide, with lids so perfectly fitted that a razor blade couldn't slip between them. The sheer effort to create and place these coffins underground raises immediate questions. Who made them? How? And, most crucially, why? In ancient Egyptian religion, the Apis bull was no ordinary animal, revered as a living embodiment of the god Pa, creator deity of Memphis. The Apis bull was identified by unique black and white markings and treated like royalty during its lifetime. Housed in a temple, fed lavish meals and adorned with jewels, it was a symbol of divine power. When an Apis bull died, its death was a national event. Priests mummified the bull with the same care given to pharaohs, wrapping it in linen and preserving its organs in canopic jars. The bull was then placed in a sarcophagus in the Serapeum, buried with rituals to ensure its spirit joined the gods. This practice, which began in the New Kingdom and peaked under pharaohs like Ramses II.
But here's where the mystery kicks in. When Mariette opened the sarcophagi in the 19th century, many were empty. Others contained only fragments of animal bones, not the intact mummies you'd expect for such revered creatures. Some sarcophagi were sealed so tightly that they showed no signs of tampering, yet they held nothing. This discovery sparked questions that linger today. If these coffins were meant for Apis bulls, why were so many unused? Were they robbed in antiquity, their contents stolen by looters? Or were they never meant for bulls at all? The empty sarcophagi, combined with their staggering craftsmanship, have fueled speculation that the Serapeum hides a purpose we don't fully understand. Let's talk about the craftsmanship, because it's mind-boggling. Each sarcophagus was carved from a single block of stone, often granite, one of the hardest materials available. Quarrying granite in Aswan required immense labor. Workers used dolerite hammers and fire-setting techniques to split the stone, then shaped it with copper tools. Transporting these blocks was another feat. A 100-ton sarcophagus would have been floated down the Nile on barges, then dragged across the desert to Saqqara, likely using sledges lubricated with wet clay. Once at the Serapeum, workers faced the challenge of lowering these massive coffins into narrow underground tunnels, some only a few feet wider than the sarcophagi themselves. The chambers were carved directly into bedrock, with walls so smooth they seem machine-cut. The lids, some weighing 30 tons, were fitted with precision that modern engineers marvel at. How did the Egyptians, with no iron tools or pulleys, achieve this? The scale of the operation suggests a workforce of thousands, including skilled stonemasons, engineers, and laborers. Inscriptions in the Serapeum mention pharaohs like Ramesses II and Ptolemy I, who sponsored the burials, but they don't detail the construction process. Some scholars estimate that crafting a single sarcophagus took years, requiring not just technical skill, but also logistical genius. The Serapeum's tunnels, ventilated to prevent suffocation, show evidence of careful planning. Niches were spaced to allow workers to maneuver, and ramps may have been used to lower the coffin. Yet the precision is almost otherworldly. The sarcophagi's surfaces are polished to a glassy finish, their edges cut at perfect right angles. Some have hollowed out interiors deep enough to hold a large animal, yet the walls remain uniformly thin, a testament to the carver's confidence. This perfection has sparked wild theories. Some fringe researchers claim the sarcophagi were built with lost technology, perhaps sonic tools or even extraterrestrial help. These ideas stem from the difficulty of explaining such precision with ancient tools, but mainstream archaeologists argue that the Egyptians' ingenuity is enough. They point to other feats, like the Giza pyramids, built centuries earlier with similar techniques. The Saqqara sarcophagi, while extraordinary, fit within Egypt's tradition of monumental craftsmanship. Still, the question of purpose nags. If every sarcophagus was meant for an Apis bull, why the empty ones? And why go to such lengths for animal burials, even sacred ones? One theory suggests the empty sarcophagi were symbolic. In Egyptian religion, ritual objects often held spiritual significance beyond their physical use. The sarcophagi might have been offerings to Ptah, built to honor the god even if no bull was interred. Another idea is that they were prepared for future burials that never happened, perhaps due to political or economic shifts. During the Ptolemaic period, Egypt faced upheaval as Greek rulers navigated local traditions, which could have disrupted the Apis cult. A darker theory points to looting, though the intact seals on some empty coffins challenge this. Tomb robbers were common in ancient Egypt, but accessing the Serapeum's deep tunnels without leaving evidence would have been nearly impossible. Some speculate the sarcophagi held something else entirely, perhaps sacred relics, royal treasures, or even human remains. The Apis bull cult was tied to Osiris, god of the underworld, and some texts suggest a connection between bull burials and royal funerals. Could the Serapeum have served a dual purpose, its true function lost to time? Recent excavations offer tantalizing hints. In 2020, archaeologists uncovered new chambers in Saqqara, including coffins with human mummies, suggesting the necropolis was used for more than just bulls. These finds, dated to the 26th dynasty, show Saqqara's enduring importance, but they don't directly solve the Serapeum's mystery. The Serapeum's historical context adds layers to the puzzle. During the New Kingdom, under pharaohs like Ramesses III, Egypt was a superpower, flush with wealth from conquest and trade. Building lavish tombs for Apis bulls reflected this prosperity and the pharaoh's devotion to the gods. By the Ptolemaic period, Egypt's identity was shifting as Greek rulers adopted Egyptian customs to legitimize their rule. The Serapeum, used into the 3rd century BCE, became a symbol of continuity, linking Greek pharaohs to Egypt's ancient past. Yet the empty sarcophagi suggest interruptions, perhaps budget cuts, religious shifts, or lost rituals that we can only guess at. Modern technology is shedding new light. Ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping have revealed additional tunnels in the Serapeum, some unexplored due to structural risks. These could hold more sarcophagi or clues about their purpose. Chemical analysis of bone fragments found in some coffins confirms they're bovine, supporting the Apis bull theory. But the fragments are often incomplete, suggesting partial burials or later disturbances. Each discovery brings us closer to answers but also deepens the mystery. Why build such monumental coffins, only to leave them empty? Was the Serapeum a stage for rituals we no longer understand? A place where the line between the divine and the mortal blurred? The Saqqara sarcophagi matter because they challenge our assumptions about ancient Egypt. They show a civilization capable of feats that seem impossible, driven by a worldview where death, divinity, and eternity were intertwined. The Serapeum wasn't just a tomb, it was a sacred space, a bridge to the gods. Whether the sarcophagi held bulls, relics, or nothing at all, their creation required unparalleled skill and devotion. They remind us that Egypt's past is full of gaps, stories half told, secrets half buried. As archaeologists continue to probe Saqqara's sands, the sarcophagi stand as silent witnesses, daring us to uncover the truth behind their silent, empty chambers.